Hi everyone, it's officially day 3 of not being in the classroom, and I'm missing everyone like crazy, like I knew I would. I really hope that you're trying your best to get everything done at home and you're really working hard and you're really trying your best and showing your best effort. Whether it's iReady or the math problem of the day or any science and social studies work, I just want you to know that I recognize all of your hard work and I know how difficult it must be to be at home and having to sit down and do this. But I really, really appreciate it and I'm really proud of all of you. Today, the book we're going to read, we've already read it in class and we've read other books by this author in class, so you'll already recognize it. But the reason I want to read it is because we talked about main idea yesterday. You watched the main idea vocabulary video and you did some assignments on that. And so it's kind of difficult to think of a main idea when it comes to a fictional story, but I think the main idea kind of goes along with the moral of the story and what the author wanted you to learn after reading this story. So the book that we're going to read today is Ada Twist, Scientist. I lost the little cover thing, so the cover's not on the front. As I'm reading, remember that all fictional stories always have a plot. So it's going to have a sequence of events. As I'm reading, I want you to think about or maybe discuss with somebody who's around you, who's watching this video too, discuss what the exposition is. Who are the characters and what's the setting? What's the rising action? What's the climax? What's that big event that happens that kind of changes everything? What's the falling action and what's the resolution? How was the problem solved? So you might already know the answers to all those questions since we've already read this book, but I really wanted to read it again. It's one of my favorites. This author is one of my favorites. So as I'm reading, think about what lesson, what the main idea the author wants you to get out of it as well. All right. So here is Ada Twist, Scientist by Andrea Beatty and illustrated by David Roberts. Ada Marie, said not a word till the day she turned 3. She bounced in her crib and looked all around, observing the world, but not making a sound. She learned how to climb and made her big break with a trail of chaos left in her wake. She ran through the day, chasing each sound and sight, and didn't slow down till she conked out at night. Her parents were frazzled, but tried not to freak, as Ada grew bigger and still did not speak. Clearly young Ada, with lots in her head, would have something to say when it ought to be said. That's just what happened when Ada turned 3. She tore through the house on a fact-finding spree and climbed up the clock just as high as she could. Her parents yelled, "Stop!" as all good parents would. Ada's chin quivered, but she did not cry. She took a deep breath, and she simply asked, why? Why does it tick and why does it talk? Why don't we call it a granddaughter clock? Why are there pointy things stuck to a rose? Why are there hairs up inside of your nose? She started with why and then what, how, and when. By bedtime she came back to why once again. She drifted to sleep as her dazed parents smiled at the curious thoughts of their curious child, who wanted to know what the world was about. They kissed her and whispered, "You'll figure it out." Her parents kept up with their high-flying kid, whose questions and chaos both grew as she did. Even Miss Greer found her hands were quite full when young Ada's chaos wreaked havoc at school. But this much was clear about Miss Ada Twist. She had all of the traits of a great scientist. There's Miss Greer that we remember, and there's Rosie Revere. Ada was busy that first day of spring, testing the sounds that make mockingbirds sing, when a horrible stench whacked her right in the nose, a pungent aroma that curled up her toes. "Zowie!" said Ada, which got her to thinking, what is the source of that terrible stinking? How does it still stink if there's no nose to tell? She rattled off questions and tapped on her chin. She'd start at the start where she ought to begin. A mystery, a riddle, a puzzle, a quest. This was the moment that Ada loved best. Ada did research to learn all she could of smelling and smells, both the stinky and good. One hypothesis Ada thought could be true. The terrible stink came from Dad's cabbage stew. She tested and tested, but soon Ada knew it was time to come up with hypothesis too. And we've learned about hypothesis in science. It's the educated guess you give about what you think is causing something or what you think will happen. Then zowie! The stink struck again just like that. Hypothesis 2, it's caused by the cat. The cat couldn't make such a stink on its own. It needed perfume and some fancy cologne. So young Ada tested. The test was a flop. She started again, but her parents yelled, "Stop!" because she was about to put it in the washer. Ada Marie, to the thinking chair now by the time we count 3. Enough, said her mother. That's it, said her dad. Her parents were frustrated, frazzled, and mad. Why? Ada questioned. Her mother said no. What? Ada queried. Her father said go. You've ruined our supper. You've made the cat stink. Enough with your questions. Now sit there and think. She looked at her parents. Her heart turned to goo. Poor Ada Twist didn't know what to do. She sat all alone by herself in the hall, and Ada once more could say nothing at all. And so Ada sat, and she sat, and she sat, and she thought about science and Stu and the cat, and how her experiments made such a big mess. Does it have to be so? Is that part of success? Are messes a problem? And while she was thinking, what was the source of that terrible stinking? Ada Marie did what scientists do. She asked a small question, and then she asked 2. And each of those led her to 3 questions more, and some of those questions resulted in 4. As Ada got thinking, she really dug in. She scribbled her questions and tapped on her chin. She started at why, and then how, and when. At the end of the hall, she reached why once again. Her parents calmed down, and they came back to talk. They looked at the hallway and just had to gawk. No patch of bare paint could be seen on the wall. The thinking chair now was the great thinking wall. They watched their young daughter and sighed as they did. What would they do with this curious kid who wanted to know what the world was about? They smiled and whispered, "We'll figure it out." And that's what they did, because that's what you do when your kid has a passion and heart that is true. They remade their world. Now they're all in the act of helping young Ada sort fiction from fact. She asks lots of questions. How could she resist? It's all in the heart of a young scientist. And as for the smell, what can Ada Twist do but learn all she can with her friends in grade 2? Will they discover the stink that curls toes? Well, that's the question, and someday, who knows? Yeah. So like I said before we started reading, I wanted you to think about what you think the main idea of that story is, or what the author wanted you to learn from reading that story. And what I think the author wanted us to learn is that it's really, really important to ask questions and to wonder and to notice and to learn all you can about the world around you, because there's always going to be questions that you won't know the answer to. There's always going to be something new to figure out about the world. And as you know, in school and science, I love asking questions and testing and learning new things. So it's really important to instill that love of learning and that love of asking questions into my students. So I really hope that all of you think like Ada Twist does, like I try to teach you how to do, because the world is full of so much knowledge and it's all kind of at your fingertips as long as you ask the right questions and you know where to look. So I hope you enjoy that story. I know we read it in class before and we all really loved it. So I'm glad that we could read it again. And I hope to um, read to you again tomorrow. And we'll pick a new book and I think you'll really enjoy it. So again, I love you, miss you, and I'll see you guys soon. All right, our math problem of the day today has to do with Zane, and it's about him reading Harry Potter. It says that Zane spent 1 hour and 5 minutes reading Harry Potter. If it was 5:35 p.m. when he finished, what time was it when he started? Now, I know that this is an elapsed time problem, and when I have an elapsed time problem, I always like to make a timeline or a number line. And on the beginning of my number line is going to be the time that they start doing something, and at the very end is going to be the finish time. So we need to reread that question and figure out whether we know what time he started or what time he ended. So if I reread that question, it says if it was 5:35 when he finished. So I know that 5:35 p.m. is going to be my finish time. And the question is, what time was it when he started? So we don't know our start time, but we know our finish time and we know how long he was reading, 1 hour and 5 minutes. So we're actually going to go backwards because we're going from finish to start. So first I will move backward 1 hour because 1 hour is really easy to take away. If I take 1 hour away from 5:35, I know that the minutes are going to stay the same. It's just the hour that's going to change. If I started at 5, but I'm going backwards 1 hour, it's going to go back to 4:35. This was 1 whole hour. But he didn't read for just 1 hour. He also read for another 5 minutes. So I'm going to take another 5 minutes away and move backward 5 more minutes. Now, if it was 4:35, we need to move backward 5 minutes. So I'm going to take 5 minutes away from 4:35. And if I have 5 minus 5, I know that equals 0. 3 minus nothing is 3. And we have our hour 4:30. So that tells me that he started reading Harry Potter at 4:30 p.m. Now, if I wanted to check my work, like I talked about yesterday, to check your work, all you have to do is the inverse operation or the opposite operation. So what we did was we did 5:35 minus 1 hour and 5 minutes. Well, let's kind of go backwards. Let's see if we start at 4:30, and if he reads for 1 hour and 5 minutes, will it end at 5:35? So let's check. We have 4:30, and he reads for 1 hour and 5 minutes. Well, 0 plus 5 is 5. 3 plus 0 is 3. And 4 plus 1 is 5. And those match up. So I know that my answer of 4:30 p.m. was correct. I hope that that made some sense for you. I know it's difficult to do these kind of problems without the clocks that we use in the classroom, but these are really, really good to remind your brain about how to work through elapsed time problems and how to use a number line and how to remember when to look for the start and when to look for the finish. So I hope that was helpful for you. I'll be back again tomorrow to explain tomorrow's problem of the day. Once again, I love you. I miss you. Can't wait to see you all soon. And I hope you're staying healthy and safe these next few weeks that we're not in school. So again, I'll see you tomorrow. Thanks for watching, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.